What's up, guys, and welcome back to Beyond the Void Horror Podcast. My name is Alex, and today we're going to be doing a spoiler-free review of a movie on Shudder called Speak No Evil. Let's get into it. So recently I just saw this movie pop up on Shudder. I had it in my list of movies to watch because I watched the trailer. It looked like a psychological thriller type of movie, you know, where everybody's uncomfortable and they're always kind of like trying to get out of the room, but they're too polite to do anything about it kind of thing. This is a movie that is very much like that. It is essentially about a Danish couple who go to like Italy for vacation with their daughter, and they meet another Dutch couple who are with their son, and they kind of bond with them a little bit on this vacation. They get a letter from them sometime later when they return home that they would love them to come out and visit them where they live, show them a good time because they really enjoyed their company, and their kid can't stop talking about their kid. They go to this idyllic weekend to spend some time with their newfound friends from Tuscany, and sure enough, things start to get a little weird as things start to go from uncomfortable to pretty clearly we shouldn't be here. And of course, the Danes are staying polite in the face of unpleasantness. This is a movie that is written and directed by Christian Tafdrup, who also had someone I would assume is his brother, maybe, Mads Tafdrup, who helps write on this. They've worked on movies together like A Horrible Woman, and Christian Tafdrup has actually directed another movie called Parents. Now, this is a movie that is probably more along the lines of a psychological thriller, but in my opinion, I think horror is very diverse and is very open to interpretation to a lot of different people. Things that are scary or uncomfortable, we kind of thrive in when it comes to horror. Now, this isn't a supernatural film. This isn't ghosts or zombies or anything like that. It's more just people and being put in a situation where the situation just gets really uncomfortable and you're still trying to play nice because you probably don't believe it's happening and you don't really know how to deal with the uncomfort. Those are kind of the movies that I really enjoy watching, and I've seen many. There's so many. In fact, it's funny, when I started watching this movie, I instantly started writing down a list of all the different movies that I like that are with uncomfortable guests. More on that later. But this movie reminds me very much of a Funny Games kind of movie with Michael Haneke, who did two versions. He did the original, and then he did an Americanized version that was kind of an update that had a different ending. But both of them were very spectacular in the fact that the terror, the horror, the uncomfortable is sitting in the room with you at the same time, and you're trying to get past that uncomfortable feeling by being polite or just hoping like you would normally. That's these types of movies. And recently I just watched another movie that was like that, with a couple of guests that came over to this couple's house. Who invited them? That was the movie that I just watched recently that was like this. But this is a little bit different. This reminds me much more of Funny Games, but not as good. Now, it is good. There is great acting, well shot. Everything is really well shot, as a matter of fact. It looks really fantastic. But the one thing that I would say about this movie is that there are a couple of holes in the story that, to me, I just would have left. But I do have to give it up to the mom in the movie. She does do some things in the movie that you would not expect from a character, standing up to the impoliteness, standing up to the awkwardness on many occasions. But is it enough? And that's kind of what this movie does. It just keeps getting worse and worse and worse. Now, the first third of the movie is really just kind of the setup for the parents and the kid, and like what you think of the family in particular and how their dynamics work and what they are like, so that when it starts to get shredded up and torn away from them and their tolerance levels get raised up, you start to feel more uncomfortable as it goes along. Now, this isn't as shocking as something like Funny Games. It's a little bit more on the tame side, but, you know, there are some things that happen in the movie that I was like, holy shit, Jesus Christ. One particular thing that happens that I was not expecting to see. Oof, man. But for the most part, it's a little bit more tame. I would say that, you know, while I did like the acting and the writing is pretty decent and the suspense and the awkwardness is all there, I just feel like it kind of didn't do anything super new. It kind of just is the same type of movie that we've seen before. It's still a fun ride to go through these kind of experiences, this uncomfortableness. That may not be for everybody. This is definitely not the feel-good hit of the summer either, by the way. It ends in a way that I was not particularly fond of. And I don't want to say anything more about that because I don't want you to allude. I don't want you to guess anything if you're going to watch this on Shudder. You might as well just watch it. If you like psychological thrillers, it's not terrible. It's just not terribly original either. So it does do some things that are kind of shocking and scary and uncomfortable and fun, but by the end of the movie, I just did not feel good about the whole fucking situation. And, you know, I've seen movies that are similar to that ending, and it's much better. But this one kind of upset me a little bit. I don't know why. It just kind of seemed like I just couldn't get into the characters and their mindset of why they would allow that. You know what I mean? Because everything in my body would be a completely different reaction. And that's the best I could say without spoiling the movie. So I do think it's a good film. It's not a great film. It's just an average film, above average film. I would say maybe a 6, maybe a 6.5. So somewhere in there. If you like psychological thrillers, like I said, this is nothing new. It may have one surprise or so in there. It's not as intense or violent as most movies I've seen in this sort of particular genre, but it isn't a bad watch. What do you think? Have you seen the trailer? Did you get interested right away? Do you think that these types of movies kind of parallel with horror, or do you think that they're not? Because to me, it's very terrifying what people are capable of, and they are capable of some pretty heinous, fucked up things, especially when you're playing off people's niceties and being a predator without them actually realizing. I think that's pretty terrifying and horrific, and I think it could be something that makes people very uncomfortable. But yeah, let me know what you think in the comment section down below. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this one. It's definitely not the best movie I've seen all year, but you know, hey, check it out if you're interested in psychological thrillers. But other than that, thanks for coming by, and as always, long live the boys.